5 Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
You are tuned to Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. President Paul Kagame has said democracy should be about governance and people making their own choices instead of others imposing their preferences on them for it to have a meaning. The Kigali city authorities have launched an exercise to identify plots of land within the city suburbs that have not been developed. South Sudan's leaders announced that the country's post-war transitional government would remain in power for 2 years. Welcome back. Now news in detail. President Paul Kagame says democracy should be about governance and people making their own choices instead of others imposing their preferences on them for it to have a meaning. The head of state made the observation during an interactive session with a delegation of 26 global CEOs who are part of the leadership of the Young President's Organization. Felix Wimana has more on this report.
The delegation from Young President Organization is currently in Rwanda, participating in a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list trip. The objective of the trip is to give a select group of CEO members within YPO an experiential trip across 9 unique countries to discover the cultural and touristic destinations while connecting with the local business leaders. During the session, President Paul Kagame discussed a wide range of issues within the group, among other things answering the critics of Rwanda's democracy model, who disregard many factors, including the choices people have to make to impose a one-size-fits-all approach. He said, democracy means governance, and it means choice, the choice of people.
Democracy, for example, I prefer to see it as governance. It's really governance. Democracy means governance and means choice. Means choice of people. People choose what they want to do for themselves. If the people of Rwanda, their choices and ways of life are not to be respected, but rather must conform to other people's choice, then we are not talking about democracy, really. Because if it is democracy, then you allow people to make their choice. For us, we are not shy about playing our part, mainly bearing in mind where we come from, who we are, what we want to be, and that we want to stick to that.
The YPO delegation visited Italy before arriving in Rwanda, and we continue on to Kenya, Seychelles, Nepal, Bhutan, Turkey, Romania, and Switzerland. While in the country, the delegation also visited the Volcanoes National Park, where they saw mountain gorillas in their natural habitat. The Young Presidents Organization is the largest global network of business leaders with more than 30,000 members in more than 130 countries.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that Rwanda hopes to have a robust discussions with a U.S. official on a number of discussions, including peacekeeping and the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will visit Rwanda from August 10th to 11th and is expected to meet and hold talks with senior government officials, including President Paul Kagame, during his two-day tour. The government of Rwanda said that addressing security challenges in the Great Lakes region is a key priority, and Rwanda remains committed to the various regional mechanisms in place to find durable solutions. On the case of Rwandan citizen Paul Sesabagina, on which we had engaged the United States for more than a decade, Rwanda welcomes the opportunity to once again make clear that his arrest and conviction for serious crimes against Rwandan citizens alongside 20 other accomplices in the same trial while residing in the United States were lawful under both Rwandan and international law, the statement read. Rwandan security forces, alongside their Mozambican counterparts and the Southern African Development Community (SADC) forces, have rescued over 600 hostages in Cabo Delgado. According to a statement issued by Rwanda Defense Force, the development follows the launch of offensive operations to destroy terrorist bases in Katupa Forest, northeast of Makome district, based in Cabo Delgado province. The Islamic State in Mozambique terrorist groups were forced to flee to Nkoi and Nguda localities of the same district, as they are still being tracked down by the joint forces, reads part of the statement. Makome district is one of the most important military bases of the Islamic terrorists operating in Cabo Delgado province. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Jean Chrysostome Gabitsinze, alongside the Chairperson of the Private Sector Federation, Robert Bafakurera, and RNP spokesperson, CP Jean Bosco Kabeda, officiated the official opening of the ongoing International Trade Fair Expo 2022. They toured different stands at the fair and participated in a media briefing to address members of the press. The Q&A session was mainly on the ongoing international trade fair and other trade, investment and economic related issues. Senators have urged the Ministry of Education to allocate more hours of Kinyarwanda lessons in schools to help preserve and promote the language. This happened during a presentation of government activities in basic education under the National Strategy for Transformation Plan to both chambers of Parliament. Felix Wimana has more.
Among issues tabled during the presentation of the Parliament was that Kinyarwanda language could go extinct. Senator Emmanuel Havugimana called for more efforts in speaking Kinyarwanda accurately, condemning those who speak and write the language incorrectly. I hear a lot of people speaking Kinyarwanda in a wrong way, and those are educated people that should be giving Kinyarwanda value and should be influencing people to speak Kinyarwanda perfectly without errors. The Ministry of Education should look into this and ensure that children learn Kinyarwanda too, he said. Jean-Baptiste Manirakiza, a director of Language Center at Kigali Independent University, recommended Kinyarwanda to be taught not only in primary and secondary schools, but also in universities. He said, factors that contribute to the growth of the language are many. For example, many people have a mindset of believing that speaking Kinyarwanda is very cheap and uncivilized. If the mindset is changed, that can grow our language and give it a value. Prime Minister Edward Girene said there is a need to balance all the languages in a school, explaining that children can continue learning in English as it is international language in education, but also that Kinyarwanda should be taught in schools a lot and perfectly. There have been great results from learning in English in schools, but it doesn't mean that Kinyarwanda should be excluded in schools. We should monitor and make sure that Kinyarwanda is still taught in schools and also ensure that children learn it in an effective way. Jerome Kajuga, Director of Culture, Social and Human Sciences at Rwanda National Commission for UNESCO, said that to ensure that Kinyarwanda doesn't go extinct, it is up to every Rwandan to promote the language. The biggest efforts come from the root, that is the family. Parents are the ones that determine if the children will speak Kinyarwanda, write it well, and use it well. And that only comes from how they value Kinyarwanda at home and the efforts they make. He also pointed towards the schools, noting that if Kinyarwanda as a lesson is given more hours taught well and teachers make an effort in letting students understand how the language is important, that way there will be no student writing or speaking Kinyarwanda in a wrong way. He recommended school officials to find ways for all languages to be taught without excluding or obliging children not to speak Kinyarwanda. Kajuga also called upon journalists, saying that they have a role to play, seeing that they reach bigger audience and have influence. The more they are eager to use Kinyarwanda and ensure they use it well, the more people will understand that the other languages are not superior to Kinyarwanda.
The Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority has called on investors to introduce more buses in a bid to end public transport problems in the city of Kigali. There is a huge deficit and high demand for buses on Kigali roads, yet the number of passengers keep increasing. This has led to long queues in bus parks and at different bus stops in the city, a situation that worsens during peak hours, early morning when people are commuting to work and late in the evening as they return home. Investors are expected to apply through the Rwanda Utilities and Regulatory Authority website and proceed with online services. It is not the first time Kigali is experiencing a public transport crisis. For some time now, the issue of public transport clouds the media space, and over time, different measures have been suggested, but the problem persists. Emmanuel Katabarwa, the city engineer, has said that the city needs about 500 buses to put an end to the existing challenge. Currently, 3 transport companies, Royal Express, Kigali Bus Service and Jali Transport Limited, which is formerly Rwandan Federation of Transport Cooperatives, each company was allocated different city routes which they exclusively service. Kigali city authorities have launched an exercise to identify plots of land within the city suburbs that have not been developed. The city authorities are warning that the law will take its course for those who will be found at fault. Felix Wimanahirwa with more.
The 2013 law governing land use in Rwanda provides for the confiscation of land within a city if the land spends 3 consecutive years unexploited. Once confiscated, the product is sold to competent developer through an auction, and the proceeds are given to the owner of the property. According to Solange Muhirwa, chief urban planner of the city, the inspection done in 2020, over 690 plots in urban dwellings were found unexploited. She noted that they interacted with owners and advised them to start developing the plots. For those who did not develop the plots, the law is going to be applied. Solange warned that a fresh exercise to identify all the undeveloped plots is now underway. In a press conference this week, the mayor of Kigali City, Prudence Rwingisa, said undeveloped plots of land and stored construction projects affect the city's development plans. The mayor said there is possibility that some of the owners are being speculative, whereby they buy land without real intentions of developing it, but rather target to resell it at a better price after some time. You find that a particular piece of land does not get developed, but also keeps changing hands from one person to another. With this, we are not attaining the development we want, he noted. Development of city plots promotes investments and improves the security in the neighborhoods. This is because abandoned pieces of properties like uncompleted buildings or bushy plots of land can be used as hideouts for people who want to do criminal activities. Some of the failed products that the city authorities will be dealing with soon is Kigarama Market in Kicukiro and Amarembo City Center, a commercial area that was proposed to be built in a CBD 5 years ago but has failed to materialize. Apart from repossessing and auctioning properties, the city administration uses some alternative measures, including connecting the owners to prospective buyers that are ready to purchase and immediately carry out development.
Kigali residents have voiced concern over the shortage of public toilets along major roads and commercial centers. Buildings near busy roads prefer to lock their toilets, which make them inaccessible for those traveling within the city. Motorcyclists within the city are seriously affected by this problem. As a result, people end up polluting areas near the roads or making long distances to be able to ease themselves. For example, if you have the call of nature, when you are at a bus stop or any other busy place, you are obliged to walk a distance seeking a toilet. Such passenger hotspots should be considered in terms of increasing public toilets, says Diane Irajena, a city resident. Responding to these complaints, Marie-Solange Muhirwa, Chief of Urban Planning in the city of Kigali, said a plan to construct public toilets in 7 locations has started, and each location has 8 public toilets for both men and women, as well as those for people with disabilities. She said they will continue mapping out different areas that are points of convergence to ensure they have public toilets. So far, 42 sites have been identified, adding that the exercise is still ongoing. Places that need public toilets include markets, bus terminals, car free zones, and commercial buildings. She disclosed that the city is in talks with all petrol stations to set up public toilets as well. According to a recent study by the city of Kigali, there is a need for 176 public toilets. By the end of last year, city officials said 101 public toilets had been available, while 11 were still being constructed. The Rwanda Inspectorate Competition and Consumer Protection Authority has called on consumers to check the quality of products before they buy them. According to the inspectorate body, this will assist in protecting consumers' health as well as ensuring fair competition among businesses and service provision among traders and producers. Felix Wimana has more on this report.
Robert Mugisha, a director of registration and licensing unit in RICA, says consumers should regularly check the quality of products before purchasing them.
It's really very hard. I find that this culture is not, we don't have it in our culture actually, to check the quality of what we are buying. So we are requesting all the consumers to regularly check the quality of the products they are going to buy or they buy before they take them for consumption. We would be happy if this becomes a culture too. Everyone in any service, at first check the quality and then you buy what you were sure that it has the quality you want.
The agency also recently published in the National Gazette regulations governing trade of used electrical and electronic equipment. Mugisha said that all traders in this business should have the operation license before 11th October.
We recently published a regulation governing trade of used electrical and electronic equipment, where we request all traders carrying out this business to have operational licenses. So it was gazetted on 11th July this year, 2022, And we request that before 11th October, that all business operators in this business have the operational license. So we request them to fill the application form. Then they submit the copy of business registration, the proof of payment, and a list of existing products they are selling or that they have in their store, in their stores. Actually, we wanted to regulate this business because it had different issues. We found it was found out that they were selling stolen goods and the products that they can't even describe their sources. So the legislation came to solve those issues.
RICA ensures the protection and promotion of basic consumer rights, as well as safeguarding healthy competition among the enterprises. The unit complements other departments in making sure that products and services on the markets are safe and at a competitive price. The unit also carries out annual inspections, sensitization campaign, and training to increase compliance with relevant laws.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi. Now the Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. The trading session recorded a turnover of 176,266,200 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in 2 deals on the fixed income market and 7,904,300 Rwandan francs from 50,400 shares traded in 3 deals on the equities market. M10 Rwanda closed the counter at 177 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a turnover of 3,876,300 Rwandan francs from 21,900 shares traded in 1 deal. Bank of Kigali closed the counter at 272 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a turnover of 1,088,000 Rwandan francs from 4,000 shares traded in 1 deal. Simerwa closed the counter at 120 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a turnover of 2,940,000 Rwandan francs from 24,500 shares traded in 1 deal. Bridewell closed the counter at 160 Rwandan francs. I&M Bank at 43 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.5 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.7 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.44 Rwandan francs. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.262 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.267 Rwandan francs. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 and the selling price was 0.5. The US dollar buying price was 1,019 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,040 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,239 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,264 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,036 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,057 Rwandan francs.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
South Sudan's leaders have announced that the country's post-war transitional government would remain in power for 2 years. The Minister of Cabinet Affairs said the decision was taken to address the challenges that impede the implementation of the peace agreement following a 2018 deal to end a 5-year civil war that left nearly 400,000 people dead. The Taliban has said they are investigating what they described as claims that Al-Qaeda chief Ayman al-Zawahiri was killed in a U.S. drone strike in the Afghan capital. However, the group insisted in a statement that it has no knowledge of the arrival and residence of al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan. A court in Nigeria has sentenced a man to death by hanging after he raped and murdered a woman lured under false pretenses to what she thought was a job interview. Inubong Umarin had recently graduated in philosophy from the University of Uyo and was looking for paid work before beginning compulsory military service. The 26-year-old was later found buried in a shallow grave. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.